everybody. I'm Jesse, and welcome to Gen X Thinks, where Generation Xers come together for fun and nostalgia. Today's topic: why does everyone hate Gen X? I've gotten quite a few responses in the comments saying things along those lines, like saying bad stuff about us, like Generation X is responsible for the fall of the Western civilization, stuff like that. More petty stuff like we're aloof, or we're this, or we're that, as an entire generation. And it got me thinking, like, why do people feel this way about Generation X? This channel is for Gen Xers. I put the hashtags and everything in there, Generation X, because that's who I want to talk to. But there are quite a few outside of our generation who watch these videos and make a lot of times derogatory comments like that. If those few that actually find this outside of Gen X and they feel this way about us, then there must be a lot more of them out there, is my feeling. There's a lot of people must feel this way. So why? In my experience, we've basically had our heads down and been working for the last 30 years, paying our taxes and doing, you know what I'm saying? How are we responsible for all these things, and how are we looked at as bad in some way? Anyway, I've been thinking about it since I started getting these comments. It seems to me that we're like Judd Nelson's character in Breakfast Club, the cool kid with the with the fingerless gloves and the flannel shirt, and the cool kid that just doesn't care. Whatever, all the other characters in there, but they all the jock, the preppy, the nerd, and they all dislike the cool kid. Why? Because he doesn't care. He's not putting in any effort, or just the minimum amount of effort into it. He seems like he is aloof, and he looks down on them for playing society's games, for playing their role that society has assigned them, right? And he looks down on them for that, and they know it. So that really ticks them off. And I believe we, as a group, as a generation, fit that role within society at large. We kind of look down on everybody else for believing all that shit, believing the next apocalypse, for falling for the next big hyped up scam, whatever. We're not into it. Just leave us out of it. And we don't, because we set ourselves apart like that. Other people outside our generation, I think and I've seen this a couple times by Gen Xers in the comments. They've said this a few times. They're jealous. That's true. They wish that they could separate themselves emotionally the way we have, not get all upset over some ridiculous crap. But they can't help it. I don't think they can help it, because that takes it took us. Look at everything we had to go through as children. If we wouldn't have gone through all that as children, I say that because I've had a lot of comments from boomers saying, "Oh, we went through it too. We went through that same stuff." That wasn't my point. My point was that Generation X went through it as children. We grew up with that crap. We grew up with apocalypse after apocalypse after apocalypse, different ones each time. It wasn't like one steady nuclear war is hanging over our heads our whole life. I know that the boomers grew up with nuclear war hanging over their heads. I know that. I understand that. It wasn't fun. It was a difficult thing. But we grew up as small children. From the time we were born, we grew up with nuclear war hanging over our heads and all these other different apocalypses on top. As kids, that's my point. As kids, we went through this. We didn't go through this as adults. We weren't already 30, 40 years old by the time they started rolling out all these killer bees and all this other crap. We were children, 4, 5, 6 years old when they started hitting us with all these different apocalypses. And after a while, you just grow out of that. You grow out of that fear, that anxiety and whatever. And that's what sets us apart. We went through it as children. Now, the younger generations, they've had global warming. There's always the threat of nuclear. I get it. It's always there. But that is so far in the background now. We've had nuclear weapons for we're getting close to 100 years now, and there's been no global nuclear war. There probably never will be, because everybody knows that it's the end of civilization. We're going back to the Stone Age. Nobody wants to do that. Who wants to do that? Not even the bad guys want to do that. They'll lose their caviar and their fancy champagne and stuff that they're drinking on their throne or whatever. They don't want to lose that. Getting off the beaten path here. So that separates us from the other generations. We grew up with various apocalypse as kids, so we feel differently than they do. We think differently than they do, and I can't think of a better way to put it, but besides that, we're like that cool kid who's just aloof, and you go play your games, go ahead, fall for it if you want. I'm done. I'm not doing it anymore. And they see us looking down on them like that, and that angers them and upsets them, because we're not falling for it with them. It's human nature to want everybody to follow you, everybody to believe what you believe. When we don't believe what they believe, that angers them. It upsets them, as they feel like then we're saying that's as good as saying that they are wrong. In some cases they are, some cases they aren't. If you're like me, I don't care whether they're right or wrong. I just don't want to go through that crap that they're going through, putting themselves through that crap that they're putting themselves through. Not interested in it. Just leave me out of it. But I think that's what it boils down to. Simple jealousy. They see us as a group of people who, whether we do or not, we look like we have our shit together. We're not panicked and hysterical over the next apocalypse. We're the calm ones. Just like that kid in Breakfast Club. He'd been in detention how many times? He'd been through it too many times. He was the dude just sitting there chilled out. You know what I mean? Because he's been through it already. That's how we feel. We've been through it already. We grew up that way. So there's not a lot they can do to rattle our cage. And they envy that. They wish that they were more like that. And I'll leave you with that. Thank you for watching. I appreciate you taking the time. Please like, subscribe, and comment. Tell me what you think about this topic. Leave me a comment down below. Let me know what you think. I would appreciate that. I enjoy commenting with you back and forth, reminiscing. If you'd like to support the channel by buying me a cup of coffee, I'll put the link in the description below. As always, stay frosty, Gen X, and I'll see you on the next one.